Patrick Williams is one of two 3-and-D forwards from Florida State that will be taken in the first round in this year's NBA draft. While Williams didn't have great production during his freshman year at Florida State, he showcased skills that translate well to the NBA level, skills that could lead to him being drafted in the late lottery, but he'll most likely be drafted right after that in the middle of the first round. One of Williams' major strengths is his defense, and he should be a good defender at the NBA level right away. He has decent height and length, as well as a well-built frame and solid lateral quickness. All these attributes should lead to him being a good defender against NBA wings and forwards. Although he plays a bit stiff, Williams is a decent athlete. He's also a very legit threat on the offensive glass for a forward. His offensive rebounding and putbacks were very impressive during his 1 year at Florida State. How good Williams becomes likely depends on how much he develops his offensive skill set. He's shown flashes of some ball handling ability, slashing ability, as well as some secondary playmaking potential. Williams has some sneaky upside that is dependent on him turning these flashes into consistent production. If not, he should still be able to be an effective offensive player in the NBA, and one of the reasons why is he's a very solid cutter. He moves well off the ball, and that is a trait that'll work well in a lot of NBA offenses. And his NBA fit in general is solid as a 3-and-D forward who can move off the ball, as well as potentially offer some shot creation and secondary playmaking ability. However, Williams does come with a few concerns. The main one is his 3-point shooting ability. I've labeled him as a 3-and-D forward, but he didn't shoot well during his freshman year at Florida State. He'll need to be able to consistently knock down 3-point shots in order to carve a niche out in the NBA. He also wasn't aggressive enough last year at Florida State. Williams has gone on the record and admitted this, and frankly, he's far too talented offensively to be a guy who's averaging less than 10 points per game at the college level. And while he does have solid foot speed defensively, his lateral quickness is not good enough in order to effectively guard NBA point guards or some of the quicker 2 guards in the league. Another thing he could get better on the defensive end in order to truly maximize his defensive impact would be to become more disciplined. He gambles a bit too much for how good of a defender he is, and he'd be more effective if he was more sound defensively and played with more discipline on that end. And while he does have a solid first step for his size, if you're viewing Patrick Williams in the lens of a shot creator, his first step is a bit mediocre. It's a legitimate question mark on whether or not he'll have the quickness necessary in order to consistently break down NBA defenses off the dribble. And lastly, Williams was a bit too turnover prone, especially given the fact that he wasn't much of a shot creator for others during his 1 year at Florida State. He'll need to shore up this part of his game no matter what his NBA role ends up looking like. So now let's bring in Eric and let's talk Patrick Williams. I want Eric's take on Williams first before I go in on him. Eric, what are your thoughts on Patrick Williams?
I think it's just solid all the way around. He's got a great NBA-ready body. I think he's going to be really solid on the defensive end, both on the ball and off the ball. He's got really good defensive instincts, both blocking shots, his awareness. He does kind of gamble a lot for steals. That could get him into some trouble in the NBA. But overall, I like his defensive potential. But yeah, a lot of evaluations are just like, okay, he's okay at this. He's okay at that. He's okay at that. He can dribble a little bit. He can play make a little bit. He can hit the mid-range. His shot percentage from 3 needs to improve in the NBA, like pretty much every guy we evaluate, right?
Yeah.
But he had a good free throw percentage. It was over 83%, so that usually is a good sign for him being able to improve his 3-point shot. And I feel like if he was one of those guys that we talked about, the freshman to sophomore jump with, a lot of prospects have had that freshman to sophomore jump. Mm-hmm. I feel like if he went back for his sophomore year, we'd see a much bigger rise in his production from an offensive standpoint. So I think we'd be looking at him a lot higher than we are right now.
Yeah.
He's a little clunky, I think, at times with his movements and stuff. Nothing that can't be fixed, I guess, but I just don't know if anything's going to translate to being really good at the next level. Just kind of good at a lot of different things, but not good enough at everything, you know?
Mm-hmm. See, and that's kind of how I feel about Neesmith and Bay, the previous 2 videos on this channel. He kind of gets lumped in there, right? Yeah. NBA ready, 3-and-D wings. He's kind of in that mold. It'll be interesting to compare these 3 players specifically going forward. I have Patrick Williams ranked a little bit below them just because we didn't see that high level of production from Patrick Williams in college. He didn't even average 10 points per game. At Florida State, he was more of just a role player. And Saddiq Bey and Aaron Neesmith early in their careers were just role players, you know. They had jumps as their career went on. So I agree with you. I would have expected Patrick Williams to see a jump in production, but it does make sense for him to come into the NBA this year because of how loaded the draft is next year. He could have had that jump and still not improved his draft stock just because next year's draft is a lot more loaded than this one, so I think it does make sense. As far as he goes, compared to Nesmith and Bey, I do like his upside a little bit more, and I have a couple reasons for that. One is I think it'll be easier for him to get off his mid-range shot in the NBA because he has a very high release point and he's a little bit bigger than both those guys. And he has a decent mid-range pull-up. The way he shoots it reminds me a little of Kawhi in a way. He has a high set point, high release point. He can hit it if there's a hand in his face. I think that's a shot that translates to the NBA. And then his ball handling ability, I actually think is solid. You said he was clunky. I agree with that. He's a little bit heavy-footed. He needs to try and become maybe a little bit more athletic. Maybe it's a biomechanical issue that he can fix. But his ball handling is solid, and he has a little bit of wiggle. I think, as he gets into the NBA, it would do him well to try and become a little bit more fluid, a little quicker, so that he can actually use that ball handling ability with some added quickness to maybe become more of a slasher, because I actually think his perimeter skills aren't bad considering like how, he looks heavy-footed and looks kind of like a big guy, kind of like a 4, but he can dribble a little bit, and he threw some passes last year at Florida State that impressed me a bit. He didn't really showcase it that much. That wasn't really his role, but he threw some cross-court pinpoint passes. He threw some passes where I was surprised that he saw an available pass, and they were, solid passes. So I think he has a little bit of playmaking potential with that ball handling potential. I feel like his upside, I know you're not going to agree with this, but I feel like his upside might be a little bit higher than a Nesmith or a Bey just because I like his ball handling ability more, and I feel like all the shots he shot at Florida State, he'll be able to get in the NBA. So what do you think about his upside long-term compared to a Saddiq Bey and Aaron Nesmith? I know I'm making this comparison a lot, but I think they're all kind of in the same mold of 3-and-D prospects that could intrigue the Portland Trailblazers. So what do you think is his upside compared to those two, and why do you think it's either higher or lower than Nesmith and Bey?
If we're just talking upside, I guess it's right on par with those guys in my mind. It's just, I tend to look at the shooting as something that I've already seen as a proven commodity with both Bey and Nesmith versus you think it might translate. His form's okay. He has a little bit of a hitch on his mid-range shot, but he does get that nice high release, like you said. I think his set shot is a little slow, and he has to gather his feet and do a little bunny hop every time he shoots a 3, which can waste a little too much time with the quick closeouts of NBA players. So, I mean, if we're just projecting it, sure, he could be better than those guys. I'm not going to say it's a fact that he won't be or anything, but I just like that Nesmith and Bey have proven that they are legit three-point shooters already. But Patrick Williams is like a different type of player. Those guys are more shooters. He's got a better all-around game right now than those.
He's a better offensive rebounder, better inside around the basket. He's a little bit more of a big, like a 3-4 hybrid, I feel like, than a Bey who's more of a 3, and Nesmith is like a wing, a 2/3. So he brings some different things to the table. I want to make one quick point. You talked about Nesmith shooting being a proven commodity, but his freshman year, his shooting numbers were very similar to Patrick Williams, and then his sophomore year, Nesmith improved. Granted, he only played 14 games, but he shot 52%. You know what I mean? It would have been interesting to see where that number was if he played a full season. It's just intriguing, like, okay, if he went back for a second year, what would his three-point shooting percentage be? I feel like it would have taken a noticeable step up, especially when you kind of compare to like what Saddiq Bey and Aaron Nesmith shot their freshman years compared to where they got before they went to the draft, So I can't put too much stock into it. I like his shot. I honestly think his spot-up three-point shot, he has a little bit too much arc. Like, some guys don't have enough arc. Some guys don't have. Some guys have too much arc. I feel like he has too much arc. He has a ton of arc on that thing. So I feel like if he got a more optimal release angle, a more optimal angle for the ball entering the rim, they say 45 to 47 degrees is the most optimal angle for the ball to enter the rim. I feel like ball's hitting the rim at a 50-degree angle for Patrick Williams because he has a ton of arc. So maybe that could be a fix that would help him become a better three-point shooter, just getting a little bit less arc. I do think his shot translates well to the NBA three-point line. It's just hard to kind of picture where he's going just because he didn't really produce on the college level, So it's like, I do like the package that he has of, flashes of ball handling ability, flashes of passing ability, able to hit a mid-range shot that he should be able to get off in the NBA because he has such a high release. And then some of his finishes, I think, are decent. He's not a guy that's really blowing past people, but he's big enough where he can use his body and get his shoulder into a defender and finish. I feel like a guy like Aaron Nesmith, he's smaller and he's shorter, and doing that type of thing, finishing in that way, wouldn't be as conducive for success for a Nesmith compared to a Patrick Williams, who is bigger. So he's an intriguing player. I feel like he has a chance of being potentially a top 5 or 6 player from this draft if he puts it all together. I think his floor is really high too. You just look at his defense and three-point potential. He's in that Nesmith Bay mold where he has a pretty high floor. So I don't know. You want to add anything else in regards to Patrick Williams?
Well, I do feel like just listening to him in interviews, I feel like he's got a pretty good feel, knowledge-wise for the game. He knows that he needs to be more aggressive and all that. So I think he will work hard. He seems like a guy who likes basketball and tries to get better and all that stuff. So I think that bodes well for him improving his game and improving his shot. It's just, I don't know. There's something about him that just, I don't even know if it's fair or not. I just get just a mediocre type vibe sometimes. And I'm not saying that he is mediocre. I just don't know if he's going to be good at any one thing to say, okay, you could be a really good player in the NBA. And the one thing he could really improve on, if he becomes a slasher in the NBA, he's got the athleticism and the body to really make his mark on cuts to the basket, and if he can become a good finisher inside. And if he improves his 3-point shot, he could definitely rise up into the top 5 of this draft class. So I'm not saying he's definitely a mediocre player or whatever. I don't know. Something just tells me that he's just going to be one of those guys who's just there, we saw this a lot with Nicholas Batum, where, he had the potential to dominate games, but it just wasn't there. You look at his stats and he's got 9 points and 4 rebounds and 4 assists or something, It's it's a good game, but how much better could it be,
Yeah, he definitely wasn't aggressive enough at Florida State last year, but let me just say this. If he figures out mentally and, becomes a guy who's more aggressive offensively, then I feel like he could become really good. You talk about how he just gives off a mediocre vibe, and I feel like part of that might be just the way he moves. He's not as fluid as a Bay or a Nesmith, so that, watching guys when they're a little bit more clunky, it kind of gives off a mediocre vibe. But you've seen guys like Kawhi Leonard come into the league, was kind of clunky in a way. He was a bit more fluid than Patrick Williams is, I think. But, he just didn't move like a star, and, you didn't picture him doing what he does now. And still, right now, it's not like he's, beating people with quickness. It's not like he's, being so fluid that, he's able to get by guys or anything. He just makes it work. And that's kind of the vibe that I get from Patrick Williams. If he becomes aggressive, he's going to be a guy just with his pull-up mid-range shot, which is solid. It's at a good point considering where he's at in his career. He has a high release. He should be able to get that off in the NBA. He shows some flashes of being able to be a little creative with his finishing, finish from different angles and whatnot. That's something you'll need in the NBA. And he shows a little bit of ball handling and playmaking potential. That seems like a guy who I would want my Portland Trailblazers to definitely look at. I think Portland could use a 3-and-D forward with a little bit of playmaking potential to use Dame and CJ off the ball. I don't think Patrick Williams, should play right away, but long term, I feel like he would be a good fit, especially if they keep CJ. I do like having switchable wings, but switchability isn't as much of a factor if you have CJ at shooting guard. If we had a Chris Middleton at shooting guard, I'd rather go with a Sadiq Bey, who I feel like can guard more, is a more versatile defender than a Patrick Williams. Patrick Williams can really only guard the 3 and 4. He's not that good when switched out onto guards, but you're not really going to have switchability between the 2, 3, and 4 if you have CJ McCollum playing the 2s undersized. So I'll go back and forth on which one of these 3 guys I like Patrick Williams, Aaron Nesmith, or Sadiq Bey. Let us know who you guys want out of those three if Portland is going to draft one of those three with the 16th overall pick. Because it's an interesting debate. It's fun to kind of compare these three guys.
Yeah, I will say he's kind of a little bit bigger Nasir Little in my mind. Because Nas has a little bit of playmaking ability. He has a little bit of a mid-range if he's allowed to do it. His three-point shot needs some work, which he has obviously worked on. His defensive potential is decent. He's switchable between the 3 and the 4, I feel like, on defense. So it doesn't hurt to have quality wing defenders like that. Because Nesmith and Bey, I feel like, have defensive potential too. So, like, it's not that huge of a gap defensively. But like I said, they're already coming in shooting. So more Gary Trents, less people who can't shoot. But then you look at his free throw percentage, and that, like I said, that usually translates. So I don't know if he can't shoot. I don't know. I could be completely off base. I think he does have some useful skills in the NBA.
Yeah, Nas and Patrick Williams would be an interesting 3-4 fit, just because of the perimeter upside they have, and either can guard the 3 or the 4. Honestly, that might be something that Neil Olshey looks going forward like. Okay, Nas and his upside. Patrick Williams has some flashes of ball handling ability and playmaking ability. That could be a really intriguing forward combo, honestly, long term. And Patrick Williams, like, I feel like he plays like a guy who's been in college for 3 years. But he's only 19, you know, he's only been in there 1 year, so he's very young. He would be a guy that I would be happy with if the Portland Trailblazers took his 16. I wasn't as high on him a couple weeks ago, but the more I watch him, the more I'm intrigued by what he could potentially become in the NBA. So anyway, that wraps up our draft profile on Patrick Williams. Thank you guys for watching. We're dropping other draft profiles over on NBA Uprise. There will be a link in the description below, or you can click that logo on the outro slide, and you can easily subscribe that way. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you guys later. As always, peace out. Go Blazers.